then they add more gas. But you see, I add lots of gas there, but the car is still rolling backwards. So I know some of you guys want to drive without using a handbrake. I'm going to show you how to do that properly in this video. So if you're moving off on a hill and you've got hill start, it's going to be a lot easier, but you can still get it wrong. So let's say you're trying to move off and then you take too long to get to the biting point, you're going to roll back still. The car's going to roll backwards. Or you don't get enough of a biting point. Let's say you try to move off and your clutch is not high enough, you're still going to roll backwards. To use the hill start properly, once you come off the brake, bring the clutch up high enough so that you see the revs. Do you see them going above 1? Yeah, so when they go above 1, you usually have enough of a biting point there. So if I bring it like there, above 1, you see the car starts going forward. But if I bring the clutch up and it's not above 1, like there, you see the car still rolls backwards. So to make it easy, make sure you have the above 1, add a bit of gas, and then the car will move forward. Another mistake you could make is if you bring up the clutch too high. So right now I've got our foot on the brake, the handbrake is still down, and then when we try to move, I'm gonna come off the brake, and then I'm gonna bring my clutch up too high on purpose to show you what happens. So let's say now off the brake, hill assist is on, and I come off the brake, and it's rough. It goes forward too fast, and it almost stalled there. Worst case scenario is you're gonna end up stalling because you're bringing it up too high. So to prevent that from happening, so you don't bring it up too high, once you come off the brake, bring it up to the biting point, and then add some gas, and then smoothly bring it up so it's not too high up. That way, you're not going to stall. So I showed you earlier with the hill assist on, if I turn the hill assist off, it's gonna be a lot harder. So if you're in a car that's got no hill assist, it's gonna be a bit harder, but I'll show you how to do it anyway without the handbrake. So now, when I come off the brake, if I don't have my biting point, the car's gonna roll back straight away. Earlier, when I done it, when the hill assist was on, I had time to come off the brake and then bring my clutch up and then go to the gas. If I try to do it like that now, the car doesn't allow it, it just rolls back straight away because there's nothing holding it. So to not roll back now, I'll need to make sure I've got the biting point first before I do anything else. Before I release the brake, I need to make sure I've got the biting point first. So I'll bring the clutch up, and then you see the revs are going a bit higher than 1, and I can also hear it in the engine as well. It's going a little bit louder, yeah, and I can feel the car rumbling. Once I do that, I can feel that, then I can add gas now and keep my clutch where it is, and that way I can move off smoothly. Don't get tempted to bring the clutch up really high once you start moving off, which is what a lot of people do by mistake. So they'll get the biting point, and then now they'll bring the clutch up even higher. There's no need to bring it any higher than that because you're already at the point where the car will want to move. So once you're already at the biting point, you don't need to bring the clutch any higher. If you're gonna bring it higher, bring up a tiny bit, not up too much. So I'll show you what I mean. So right now we're at the biting point, and then off the brake, and then up a tiny bit on the clutch, adding some gas in the background, and then that way it moves smoothly. Some people, once they get really experienced, they can do it really quickly, getting the biting point really quick and then adding gas on as well. So like this. That way you don't roll back that much. You're gonna roll back a tiny bit because when you come off the brake, the car is still gonna roll back a bit before you catch the biting point. But what you don't want to do is take so long that the car rolls back that much. That's gonna be an issue for people behind you, and on your test you probably will fail for that. So the easiest way is to make sure you got your biting point first, and then once you've done your checks and then you want to move, add some gas and bring the clutch up really smoothly, adding more gas, and then clutch all the way up once you're moving smoothly, and then second gear. So you have to remember the handbrake is optional, but I would say use it if you want to use it. If you feel more comfortable using it, then use it. If you don't feel comfortable using it and you want to just use your foot brake and the gas and the clutch, then do it that way. Don't be forced to do what you don't want to do. Do what you think is best and do what you think is easier for yourself. If you're at a set of lights on a hill or any sort of junction, it's really important that you do this properly, because usually there's people behind you. Right now there's someone behind me and they're not that close, but if they were, and if I was to roll back too close to them, on the test the examiner will slap on the brakes and then you fail the test. Once you pass your test, if you do that, the person behind you is going to get scared, and you don't want that. So to do it properly, I'm going to make sure I get my biting point before I try to do anything else. So once the light goes to amber, I'm going to get my clutch to the biting point, and then off the brake, adding some gas and clutch up smoothly, and then I can change to second. But if you get it wrong, let's say you've stalled Don't panic, just clutch down again and then try again. So a lot of people stall, it's normal to stall. What you don't want to do is take too long figuring out what's happened. So if you've stalled, first thing you do, like I've just shown you there, is put your clutch down. If you have stop start in your car, the car will turn back on usually. If you don't, switch it off and then back on again, and then move off when it's safe. So at a junction like this, not using a handbrake can actually be beneficial because it means you're ready to go quicker. So like now, once I get a nice gap, I can just make a move, add some gas, bringing my clutch up. There's one less movement for me to do. I didn't have to put my handbrake down. So if you're on a hill in a stop-start situation like here, and if you don't do it properly, you are gonna roll backwards. So like now, if I don't do it properly, you see the car starts rolling back straight away. So once you've stopped in traffic like this, you keep your brake on, get the biting point first, and then release the clutch smoothly. If you're getting confused between whether to get the biting point first or not, then at first, it's much easier just to get the biting point first all the time. So like here, I'll stop for this bus, and then I'm gonna get the biting point first and then move off. You see, that was okay. The car didn't struggle, it was fine. And then if I'm going uphill, I'll do the same thing. I'll get my biting point first and then come off the brake. That way, you're never gonna roll backwards, no matter where you are, even if it's flat or even if it's hilly. So like here at this junction, it's a bit hilly, but not too crazy. If I don't have my biting point first, you see the car rolls back first and then I start moving forward. But if I get my biting point first, wait for this car to go past, and I'm gonna get my biting point once I have less time to wait. So like now, get my biting point and then come off the brake and then move, and the car is gonna move smoothly without stalling. Even at this zebra crossing here, it's flat, but just for practice or until I get really used to the clutch, I'll get my biting point first and then add some gas once I come off the brake. That way you're never gonna roll backwards, even if the hill is really steep. I'll show you in a second now. Further up there, the hill is really steep. Biting point first and then a bit of gas and then move off. A lot of learners panic when the car rolls back a bit as well. So let's say now I'm about to move off and then the car rolls back a bit. People will start, oh my God, it's gonna go. And then they bring up too high, or they're thinking it's gonna fly back down the road. In a situation where you're rolling back like that a little bit, don't panic, just bring the clutch up a little bit higher. Yeah, so let's say you thought you had your biting point, but then you don't, just bring the clutch a bit higher and then add a bit of gas. Yeah, just a bit higher will make it work. And another big mistake that learners make is thinking that adding more gas will solve their problem. So let's say now I'm rolling back, then they add more gas, but you see, I add lots of gas there, but the car is still rolling backwards. The gas is not gonna do anything if the clutch is in the wrong place. So instead of adding more gas, what you should do is bring the clutch higher. That way you'll catch the car from rolling backwards and then you will start going forwards. So the main thing to remember is make sure you get your biting point first before you release the brake. That way you're not gonna roll backwards, and then don't bring the clutch up too high. Once you start moving off, bring up smoothly.